Everything depends on me. A powerful thought stream for many people who are using self-induced pause mode is self-orientated, even isolationist thinking, such as it's up to me, I'd rather do it myself, and if it's going to be done right, I'm the only one that can do it. This is taken from a book called Stuck on Pause by Dr. Janice Hadlock, and it's interesting because it raises questions about self-determination and being a perfectionist. So my question number one to Lillian is, what's wrong with being a perfectionist?
You can say there's nothing wrong as such, but you are in a risk of getting stress from it. And that's what we are covering in this episode. So when you get stressed, there's a risk that you not only feel the mental stress, but you also get some physical stress. And the guys where it have a expression as a tremor and stiffness and freeze, we call Parkinson, and that's what we are unfolding here, the big, how it connects to stress. So you put yourself in a bigger likelihood for a stress or a chronic illness, actually.
Okay, question number two. I've always been a perfectionist. How can I change this?
Of course, I would hope that you all engage in our courses and the Overcome course. So feel free to contact me, and we'll put a link to the course on how to join it. And it's actually a pretty big question. So you, before we started, you told me a little story about your own life, and I thought that was a much better place to start. So where in your life are you a perfectionist?
Well, I used to be an obsessive cleaner. I had to clean my house every week without fail. Whether I had time to do it or not, I would force myself to do it. And now I don't do that anymore. I'm much more relaxed about cleaning. I do it less often. I feel much more relaxed about it. I've chosen not to worry about it, and things are much better. There's no stress associated with it because I'm not obligating or forcing myself to do it.
From where did that perfectionism come from?
I'm not sure really, possibly from my parents, possibly from my mum. My mum's quite a very, very clean person. She cleans a lot. So it's possibly something that I learnt. But I think there's an element of sort of stress. I think I get a dopamine hit as well from cleaning and then finishing and then seeing the result. You get a little hit of dopamine, don't you? Which I probably want as well. So it's kind of a link to that. But the perfectionism is definitely something that I've learned that I'm challenging because it's good to challenge it.
You can say that go in line with the theory that every time you finish something and accomplish something, you get a little hit of dopamine. And that should be a good thing when you have an illness like Parkinson's. But the problem is if you get too much of these dopamine hits, there's a lot bigger risk that it converts to adrenaline. And in this relation, what was, hopefully before in time, what was the punishment if you didn't do the cleaning, if you didn't do it as perfect as your mother may have wanted? How did you punish yourself?
I just felt guilty and I felt bad and I gave myself a hard time. I should do that. I should do that. I should do that. I must do that. I haven't done it. That's really bad. So I would kind of, my self chat in my head was kind of very negative and saying, you failed. You didn't clean the house this week. And I don't do that anymore because it's just nonsense.
And in recent years after you got your diagnosis, Did you notice that this guilt had an effect on your symptoms?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So how is that? Is it before you clean, while you clean, after you clean, or if you haven't got the right time to clean? Where did
Before,
this?
it was before, Lillian. It was before. It was always myself saying, giving myself a hard time, saying, "I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this," and therefore I got symptoms because I was stressed about it, thinking, "Have I got time to do it? Can I do it today? I've got to do it today." Giving myself deadlines that just are arbitrary. They don't really exist.
And this could be a very good example on what we're doing on the course. Was it in relationship to the Overcome course that you figured out that it was too much?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I made a decision to not be so obsessive about cleaning, to relax about it, to do it when I had time to do it, when it was definitely necessary, and not to do it as a weekly scheduled thing that was completely inflexible.
It was the course that sort of made you realize this connection.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, and that's what we do. And Andy here has this cleaning obsession, but other people have other, you can call it obsessions, or maybe it's just push and pressure to do something. And that's what a great deal of the course is about, to find these connections, because they are not, it's not easy, and what to do about it. And you can say it might be obvious, the one Andy is mentioning here, but you didn't know it before, did you?
No, not at all. Not a clue.
And that's what we soon, we take the magnifying glass and figure out what are these connections, and they are not the same for all people.
No.
It's so different, so we cannot make any uh, general line telling what Parkinson is made of. This is Andy's way into stress
Mm.
and symptoms. So you had another question?
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you the next question. What's wrong with the idea that if you want something done well or right, you should do it yourself?
Again, there's nothing wrong, but it depends on all the other things you're doing during a day. So if you have too tight a schedule, maybe there's some of the things you can outsource, depending on wealth and income and so on. Maybe skip the meal, the dinner, and go out if there's a good healthy restaurant somewhere. Maybe, like Andy, skip cleaning every second time, or what might be provoking for you right now. Maybe it's something else. It all depends on you and how densely packed your daily day is. So
Yeah.
doing things yourself can be very good if it's something that helps you calm down. That's a big win. But if something that puts some pressure upon you, that's definitely not so good.
Yeah, when I ran my business in the past, I was very reluctant to delegate any tasks to staff. So I would do most things myself, and I would push and push and push myself. And it was a really bad idea. It was a really bad lifestyle. It was too much stress. I could have delegated and given responsibility to other people, but I didn't, because I just didn't think people could do it as well as me. And that was a mistake, definitely.
You can say this example lean into the fact that there's a lot of entrepreneurs and business people into the diagnosis of Parkinson. And they say, yeah, I was busy, but I felt good about it. I felt good, for example, here, that I did the things myself. I felt good that I worked overtime. So it's not about if you are having a good time or being anxious. It's about how much push and pressure you put on yourself.
Absolutely.
Was that the answer on that
Yes,
question?
definitely, definitely. It's a very interesting area. I think we do tend to. I mean, I certainly in the past really pushed myself to achieve and to do things, and I didn't trust anyone else to do things as well as me, which of course is ridiculous.
And as I have heard you, this period in your life was definitely a cornerstone in you becoming ill,
Yeah,
getting sick. That's it.
definitely. Definitely. Okay, next question. People make lists of tasks they feel they have to do within an allotted time frame. Is this a good or a bad idea?
Our whole life we have learned that's the way to do it, that we put things in a calendar and we stick to that. And again, if you have a fair balance and take breaks and listen inward, nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of healthy people with a lot of things in their calendar. But as soon as you don't listen into your body, as soon as you get symptoms that you feel a busy mind, myriads of thoughts, or your symptoms, whatever stress symptoms is ramping up, your calendar is definitely an important thing to look at. And it's also part of the Overcome course that we look into the details. What's going on here in your calendar? Have the course made any impact on your calendar?
Yeah, yeah. I think that crossing things off a list gives people a hit of dopamine as well. I think there's a kind of satisfaction in doing that. And again, you can do it too much. You can rely too much on your lists and crossing things off, and it's not again it's a responsibility, it's a deadline, it's an obligation. So again, it's you need to be careful, I think.
Yeah, and checking into yourself. Is this obligation something that give you peace in mind, or is it an obligation that give you any other emotion that might be too strong or too stressful?
Mm.
Then something to look at.
Mm. Definitely. Okay, next question. Is multitasking a good or a bad thing?
In general, I would say it's a very toxic thing to do because you shift from task to task, from subject to subject. That means you have to disturb yourself a lot of times. And this disturbance probably create more thoughts in your mind. Maybe you have some standards about how the different tasks should be done. So that push you to think a lot more, it push you to dissociate a lot more. And multitasking, I guess there's a lot of definitions on what that is, but it it often implies that you're fast.
Yeah.
That you're fast with one thing, shift to another thing, shift to the first thing, and maybe a third thing back again. That is, you pace yourself higher and higher, and that mimic the stress state where you are running away from danger.
Yeah.
And the body is hardwired, so it goes both ways. That you, if you do calm thing, you reduce your stress. If you do stressful things, you stress up your body.
It's the opposite of mindfulness as well, isn't it? You're not being mindful because you're not focusing on one thing fully.
Yes. And being mindful, you can be mindful with cleaning if you are just in that moment, in that corner, on that polishing shelf. So you can be mindful with everything
Mm. Mm.
as long as there's no push and pressure,
Yeah.
that you are in the moment.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think often while we're doing something, we're thinking about the next thing. This is not good.
absolutely not. And that's why it's good to have a big break in between the different tasks. So one task at a time, a break where you have a cup of tea and look out the window or walk around the house or whatever. And then you sit and watch yourself. How do I feel about the next task? Maybe it's time to skip it for another day.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Next question. Is being alone a problem?
It depends on what your emotion about being alone, because alone is sort of the physical state of you being separated from other people. You cannot see them. You are in a room alone. You are out in nature alone, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it can actually be fine, especially if you walk out in nature and take in the view of a nice lake, or the wind in the trees, or the waves at the beach, or seagulls, or whatever noises nature creates. It's very, very healthy for us, because it often can help us reduce the stress, to again be mindful in what we're doing, because nature helps us with these visual calming stimuli and natural sounds. There's no stress in nature.
Mm.
And but I think it leans into the next. What if you don't like being alone? Then we call it loneliness. And I think that was your next question.
Yes, is being lonely a problem? Is my next question.
Yeah, that is a big problem, because it is you when you don't like to be alone, and you can even be together with a big group of people and feel this loneliness sneak into you, because you somehow don't have the connection you want to the people that are next to you. So feeling lonely is not about how many people that are together with you. That's your inner state. And it's actually very, very interesting, because I have found that it's not necessarily, I have been doing a lot of therapy on different people, and it's not necessarily because you fear to be alone, but that an old childhood trauma maybe comes sneaking in when you feel this distance to other people. So it can be something completely unrelated.
Yeah, so there's a very strong difference between being alone and being lonely. They're completely different things.
Yeah, and it's a little funny. In my city, they for some years has an arrangement where people could come and get a meal in a restaurant, and they sort of encourage lonely people to take part in that, so they could sit with other people. But what happened, all the guys that didn't have the problem of loneliness, they wanted to support this arrangement and came to the meeting. But what did they do? They bring their best friends. So they talked to their best friend while the lonely people were lonely. They were not alone, but they felt lonely because they couldn't connect. Because, of course, a new stranger cannot compete with your best friend in regard to what to talk about, it really demands that you also are there alone so you can make a real connection
Yeah.
to these people. So it's like people don't really understand that being alone can be wonderful and relaxing, and being lonely can be the worst state in your mind and life at all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, final question. Um, is there such a thing as a Parkinson's personality? Do people with Parkinson's have shared character traits?
In the 1970s, they always make studies if there was a connection between a diagnosis and personality. So for all the bigger illnesses, you can find these studies that come to a conclusion. So it's scientifically proved that there is a Parkinson personality. And it is actually leaning into what we have been talking about, that you are industrious, you are a perfectionist, you are have high standards about things, and in the bigger picture, a hard-working type that want to do the best you can. And again, that's how most people have earned their money in their career. The problem is if you stress yourself out and maybe you have building upon some childhood trauma that make you a little more aware of other people, and you compare yourself to others, so you up your standards, so you become a little more perfectionist and maybe obsessive, as you were talking about. And then now we have a culture where doctors and scientists put people into boxes depending on their symptoms. And that is, you will get these more stressed type with these tremor, freeze, and stiffness, and they put them in the box of and label it Parkinson's. And they get this connection because it's people that push themselves more than other people. And of course, you can be an outlier in this group, and that's where the doctors cannot really figure it out. But often they don't ask you a question about how was your life, or have you been in a stressful situation? I can ask you that question. Is there any of on your journey to the Parkinson diagnosis, is there any that have asked you questions about childhood, job life, spouse life? So, I mean, everybody knows that body and mind is connected. It's like, yeah, you get butterflies in your stomach if you are nervous. So maybe what do they ask? They ask to your symptoms.
They ask about your symptoms. They treat it very much as a medical condition. It's that sort of mind and body are separate. So this is just a medical condition. It's like it's an illness. So you need drugs to treat it.
It's a little like a car. Something is broken in the car, and that need either an operation or a pill that can solve whatever is. So they should ask a little, how was your life? How was your childhood? Have you been in accidents during your life? Or how was your job life?
Mm.
How is your spouse? Does this person beat you up, or what's going on?
I wish they'd have asked me these questions. It would have been so much better had they asked me these questions, but they didn't.
So you would have a story to tell where
Definitely,
some stress came up.
definitely, and the whole idea of a Parkinson's personality is fascinating. What I found when I did the course was that I had so much in common with the other participants. I was really, really surprised, and it was really, really excellent to have this in common, to have this shared experience, these shared character traits. I really felt that we got each other. We really understood each other. It was brilliant.
So what you have in common was that this way of going to life with high standards and push and pressure.
Mm.
That's yeah. So I think you can say that people with Parkinson in general have this push and pressure in different areas, or they have been into accidents, or they have a really rough childhood. So was that the last questions?
The last question, Lillian, yes.
So next time I have thought about us talking about who is a good fit for the Overcome course, and digging a little into what is the change from before after the course, um, why this change is needed, and who succeed with implementing these things, and what you say goodbye to and what you say good day or hello to in this, can we call it a transformation?
Yeah, it's changed me massively. I'm completely different, and I'm so pleased that I've changed because I've changed for the better. I feel so much more positive. I feel so much more excited about the future, whereas beforehand I just felt that my future was very, very bleak. I don't feel that anymore, and the course has changed that for me, so I'm so grateful to it.
And as I can hear now, you start to be able to pinpoint your stressors, where before it was a blur.
Yeah. It was just a general feeling of being stressed. I couldn't say what was causing the stress, what particular things in my life that I was doing, my own behavior was causing this stress, and I didn't realize.
Did you know you were stressed at all?
Yeah,
Do you know you are stressed, but you have connected it to the symptoms as well?
definitely. Yes, definitely.
So
Definitely. Because I mean, I'll have a thought that's a stressful thought, and my tremor will start. And then I'll stop thinking about that, and I'll take some deep breaths, and I'll calm down, and my tremor will stop. It's an intrinsic link.
you knew it before as well.
Sorry?
You knew it before the course as well.
No, not clearly. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Not as
that's
clearly.
that's if you can say, you maybe you can describe it better, that you go from a fog where you don't know why symptoms come and stop and go, and into and starting clarity. Was that a way to put it?
That's a good word, Lily. I was thinking exactly the same word. It gives you clarity, definitely, and that gives you an element of control over your symptoms as well, because you can choose things that make you happy, that you enjoy, that make you relaxed, rather than choosing things that make you stressed. We all have a choice.
And with these words, I will stop the recording.